What are some of the complications involved with buying an REO?
REO is real estate owned usually by a bank or a lending institution. It does have a lot of complications. It's probably somewhere around 10% of my business. 10% of the time, or 5% of the time, I'm representing the actual bank. 5% of the time, I'm representing buyers. Buyers need to know that this is a different game, And so one of my catchphrases that I always talk about with REOs is I say the good thing is banks have no emotion. The bad thing is banks have no emotion. So you have to understand that when a bank owns a property and they list it for $100,000, and it can be the crappiest, most rundown property ever, okay? And you think you're a badass and you're going to come in there $50,000 cash. Well, they've already had a bunch of bean counters, CPAs, appraisals, and everything. They are not going to take $50,000 on their $100,000 property. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to schedule price reductions intermittently, and eventually they believe that they will catch whatever the market is. So, if that property they're asking $100,000 for it, and it might actually only be worth $50,000 in this market, but somebody said it was worth $100,000, you're not going to get it for $50,000. You're going to make your offer for $50,000. They're not going to be insulted by it. They're going to counter at $96,000, and guess what? They're probably only going to take $96,000 because that is their bottom line. And so you can be cutesy and counter back at 55 or 60, but you're completely wasting your time. So they're going to counter at 96. They might go down to 95, but it's going to be close to whatever they counter at. Okay. If it doesn't sell 3 months from now, they're going to market it at 90, and then they'll market it at 80. But they feel as though they're eventually going to catch the market. They are not going to take your cheap ass offer because the bank, their holding costs are far different than ours. They don't have desperation. They're not worried about the $1,000 in taxes per year. They're not worried about, it's their fake money or whatever. So they don't have the holding cost that a human being has. So they're not going to take your lowball offer. They're not going to do repairs. They're not going to fix it for you. They're not going to do anything. They're going to give you a counter and that's it. They're not going to wait for you to sell your house so you can buy that house. They're not going to do that. They're not going to give you 3 months to close. I mean, banks are tough. They're like, this is our price. You better have your financing in a row and you got 30 to 45 days to close on it. They're not going to, sometimes they only give you 10 days to inspect it. And the market's hot right now. It could be 2 or 3 weeks before you get an inspection. But if the bank comes back and says, you only got 10 days to inspect it, you only have 10 days to inspect it. I mean, they're tough. They give you a special warranty deed instead of a general warranty deed. And I've had clients say, oh, this is unacceptable. I'm going to counter and say they have to give me a general warranty deed. It's not going to happen. They have a team of lawyers that say, we're only going to give a special warranty deed. It doesn't make a hill of beans difference to you that whether or not you get a special warranty deed or a general warranty deed, because you're going to have a competent attorney do a title search for you. You're going to make sure that they are actually conveying title to you. But it's going to say special warranty deed instead of general warranty deed. Is that always a hole in the chain of title? Yes, it is always a hole in the chain of title, whatever. But, 20 years from now, whatever, it's not going to be as much of a hole. So those are things that you can't counter. They're not going to do repairs for you. They're not going to let you lowball it. They're not going to give you extra time. They're not going to let you sell something so you can buy something. They're not going to let you, I do a lot of commercial unimproved land. And it can take 3 to 6 months for you to rezone it. The bank's not going to wait for you to rezone it. And you can say, well, the only way I want to buy this property, if I know it can be rezoned for our use, the bank doesn't care. The bank does not care. They have no emotions. Now, the good thing is, if you say to them, if you offer $50,000, it's $100,000, they're still going to counter, which is nice. A real human being would be like, that's stupid, that's too low, I'm not going to counter you. Usually the banks are going to counter no matter what. So that's the pluses and the minuses of bank-owned property, REO property. The banks have no emotion, which is a good thing. The bad thing is the banks have no emotion.